Hi, it's Andy Stautz with Stautz Law. Today we're following up on our Medicaid Advance Planning Basics talk with the answer to another important question, which is who needs Medicaid planning? And it's very personal. So it's hard to say specifically, you know, whether you in particular should be thinking about Medicaid planning. But in general, everybody should think about long-term care costs because they're significant. If you need a nursing home and it costs $100,000 a year, that's probably more annual spending than your retirement um, plan really accounts for. So it's expensive. You should have a plan. For Medicaid Advance Planning, though, like we talked about, there's a 5-year look back period. So you have to transfer your assets out of your estate well in advance of actually needing care, irrevocably, and based on projections about what you're going to need in the future. So those are big speed bumps for a lot of people. Um, if you're not comfortable giving your property irrevocably to a trust, okay, well, then probably an asset protection trust isn't for you. If you don't have significant assets to protect, there's no point in setting up a trust. If your healthcare needs are suddenly worse, or you have a health crisis, well, advanced planning is probably not going to help you. And if you're doing great, you probably don't need Medicaid Advance Planning. So behavioral issues aside, with having a trustee you trust, being okay with your irrevocability, having some idea of your future care needs, those behavioral issues aside, there's an asset window where if you don't have anything, it's not worth paying to set up a trust and all of that. And if you've done really well, if you've got several millions of dollars in your retirement accounts, or in your estate, you also don't need Medicaid Advance Planning, because hopefully at that point, you can simply absorb the long-term care costs, whatever they are. If your portfolio is big enough, then you can afford the $100,000 a year, or whatever the long-term care cost is going to be. And then there's an in-between area where you've got a house and some assets that are substantial enough that you want your heirs and your beneficiaries to get them, but are low enough that you can't afford long-term care on an ongoing basis. So that's the window where, okay, it's worth paying for the protection of Medicaid Advance Planning, with the hope of your life's work going to your children, or your other beneficiaries, instead of to the nursing home. So those are kind of the considerations. Again, it's very situation dependent. Market returns can affect that too. Sometimes you set up a Medicaid asset protection trust, and then you don't need care for 10 years, and your investments have doubled, and all of a sudden, you're on the upper side where you can comfortably afford it. So, to give personal advice, we need to have a personal planning meeting. You can book that online, or you can just give me a call, and I'll be happy to talk, and we can come up with a plan that's going to work for you. So thanks for watching. This is Andy Stautz at Stautz Law.